Why did they become Muslims? Chapter 1. A few words. Allahu Ta'ala created mankind. All people are the born slaves of Allahu Ta'ala. Allahu Ta'ala is the creator, the Rabb, not only of a certain nation, or race, or only of the world, but also of the entire humanity as well as of all the worlds of existence. In the view of Allahu Ta'ala, all people are the same, and no one is different from another. In addition to a body, He has given a soul to each one of them. He has sent them prophets, alayhimu salawatu, wa taslimat, to lead them to spiritual and physical perfection and to guide them on the right way. The greatest ones of these prophets are Adam, Nuh, Noah, Ibrahim, Abraham, Musa, Moses, Isa, Jesus, and Muhammad Mustafa, alayhi salam. The tenets of belief that they taught are the same. The final and the most perfect system is Islam, taught by Muhammad, alayhi salam. No prophet will come after Muhammad, alayhi salam. For the religion he brought is at the uppermost point of perfection and has no deficiency to be ameliorated, and Allahu Ta'ala has declared that mankind will never be able to change or interpolate this religion. The well-known German writer Lessing, 1729–1781, in his book Nathan der Wise, title in English, Nathan the Wise, he likens the three heavenly religions to three identical rings made of sapphire. Yet he feels uncertain as to whether one of them is genuine and the other three false. Yet the fact is that all three of them are genuine essentially. However, as a result of various personal interests, advantages, sordid and biased considerations, jealousies, superstitions, misinformation and misconstructions, men failed to understand this reality, inserted numerous wrong beliefs and ideas into the Musavi and Nasrani religions, and thus changed, defiled these true religions, which were based on Tawhid, unity, oneness of Allahu Ta'ala. Only Islam remained in its original purity. Consequently, adherents of these three religions became hostile to one another. This hostile attitude they have assumed means to oppose to the will of Allahu Ta'ala. For, as we have already stated, Allahu Ta'ala invites all people to the true religion. In the view of Allahu Ta'ala, all people, regardless of race, are equal. All people are ummat-e-dawat. And the true religion is Islam, which is the only continuation of the original forms of Judaism and Christianity. The following passage, which we have paraphrased from Professor Robinson, reflects the opinions formed in the minds of today's people who are stuck fast in materialism. I joined a tour of Israel organized for the teaching staff and students of the University of Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts, the founder of the university and one of the notables of the Catholic Church, was with us. During our scheduled visit to Ben Gurion, a former premier of Israel, Oral Roberts presented a copy of the Holy Bible to Mr. Gurion. The first portion of the Holy Bible was the Old Testament, that is, the Torah. Roberts requested Ben Gurion to read the passage he liked best of that holy book. Ben Gurion met his request with a smile. We sat under a tree in the small yard in front of his house. We were all quiet and ready to listen intently. Ben Gurion opened the Holy Bible, turned one or two pages, and read the following passage: "So God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them." Genesis 1-27. I thought to myself, good gracious. Is this the statement he has found after all? I frowned because I had been expecting him to read a passage from one of the Pentateuchal parts with meanings of a higher level, such as a verse telling about creation or a passage from the Ten Commandments. I beckoned to the television cameraman shooting the event. This beckoning meant, don't bother. These statements are not worth being televised the world over. Sometime afterwards, however, Ben Gurion explained with enthusiasm verging on ecstasy why he had picked up this statement, as follows. Quite a long time before we became Americans, Russians, Israelis, Egyptians, or Christians, Muslims, Magians, Jews, etc. That is, before the formation of differences separating today's people from one another, such as nationality, state, religion, belief, and the like, We were all a man and a woman created by Allahu Ta'ala. This is the greatest fact which all religious systems are primarily trying to teach us. Why don't we realize this, and why are all these hostilities among us? Let us join hands and supplicate Allahu Ta'ala to help us realize this fact. We all hung our heads. Roberts, being a religious man, said, "Amen," on behalf of us all. The statement that Ben-Gurion picked up really was the wisest choice. Throughout my way back from Israel, this statement completely occupied my mind. We human beings are all the same. We are the born slaves of Allahu Ta'ala. There is only one way leading to Him. This way is the way of belief guided by Ibrahim, by Moses, Musa, by Jesus, Isa, and finally by Muhammad, alayhi salam. People who follow this way shall attain to salvation. By abandoning the way guided by prophets, mankind has made the gravest error. It is for this reason that they have lost their way and their moral qualities and have even forgotten Allahu Ta'ala. The earth's resuming its peace and salvation is dependent upon men's realizing that they have been on the wrong way and returning to the right way. How right Professor Robinson is in his statements paraphrased above. Today most people have left the way prescribed by the religions, and material values have become their only concern. These poor people do not know that material values are a mere nothing. They are doomed to destruction and extinction. What is immortal in man is his soul. And the soul, in its turn, will not feed on material nutritives. The soul's primary diet is a correct belief in Allahu Ta'ala, who created all from nothing. Next comes worshipping Him, observing the duties required from His born slaves. Today, all scholars, scientists and state presidents believe in the existence of Allahu Ta'ala. Yet in matters pertaining to belief and worship they mostly get stuck in wrong and misguided thoughts and ideas and thus deviate from the right way. A beautiful description of this case is given by Professor White, a brainsurgeon who has won many scientific awards and has attained international fame for the various operational methods he has found, and who is presently a professor at the University of Cleveland and at the same time the director of the Clinic of Brain Surgery founded in the same city. See what he says, as paraphrased. The child that was brought in for a surgical operation was a 6-year-old lovely girl. She was very graceful, lively, intelligent, and cheerful. Yet after examination we spotted a big tumor in her brain. We took her in for operation. A cyst attached to the tumor had made it grow very big. I began to operate on the sac containing liquid. But, alas, the global cystic tumor suddenly contracted and the wide veins on its surface tore. Blood was gushing out onto the operation bench. My friends and I were doing our utmost to stop the blood flowing as if from a water pump. It was of no avail. We saw in despair that we were losing the battle. The child was dying in our hands. We were under the hopeless oppression of profound sadness. I was trying to stop the bleeding by putting pieces of cotton on the torn veins. The bleeding seemed to come to an end, yet I could not lift my hand off. For I knew that if I did so the bleeding would begin again, and in that case nothing could be done anymore. My assistants began to inject blood into the child's body. My fingers were still on the pieces of cotton. How incapable and powerless I felt. Poor me. How did I dare to cut off a tumor formed in a small girl's brain? How on earth could I assume the responsibility of so tremendous a job? How could a pitiable human being even touch that stupendous work of art, which we call brain, which manages all the so many various functions, provides humankind with their personality and equips them with a variety of faculties such as intellect, memory, emotions, feelings, tastes, pains, thoughts and fancies, and which Allahu Ta'ala, alone, could create. We term this tiny object, brain. Yet, in actual fact, it was this very child that lay helpless before us. Half an hour later, utter silence reigned in the operation room. We were all extremely tense with anxiety. Everybody, and I myself, knew that were I to lift my hand the flood of blood would begin again, which meant the death of the child. At that moment I began to supplicate to Allahu Ta'ala and trusted myself to His help. I begged, "O my Allahu Ta'ala, do give my fingers the strength I need so that I can prevent the bleeding." Presently a strong feeling of relief suffused me. For I had now committed my trust to Allahu Ta'ala. I had the belief that I could now lift my fingers off and there would be no bleeding any longer. I felt the existence of Allahu Ta'ala with all my soul. Slowly, I lifted my fingers. The bleeding had stopped. It was now easy to perform the operation. The operation lasted for exactly 4.5 hours. I did not leave the child for a whole week. I felt so happy as I observed that the child was gradually recovering. As of today, the child is 10 years old, a perfectly healthful, cheerful and happy little dear. In 1974, I examined a child who had had a brain hemorrhage and I saw that there was a small tumor in the middle of its brain. Yet the tumor had begun to bleed and suppurate. The situation was dangerous and hopeless. We opened the skull, placed tubes on both sides of the brain, and began to wash the brain with antibiotics. This was quite a new method and I was the first to use it. Because the child was burning with fever, we placed it in a respirator and covered it with cold blankets. In the meantime we continued to wash the brain. This hopeless situation lasted for weeks. I kept praying and supplicating Allahu Ta'ala to help me. In my supplications, I was begging Allahu Ta'ala not only to have mercy on the child and its parents, but also to give energy and strength to those people who had undertaken this heavy responsibility and who had been working with me continuously for weeks. Eventually, the divine help reached us. This event, which had seemed to be a total hopelessness, ended in success. The child recovered. My friends were happy and they were saying that the new method we had used had yielded a very good result. They thought that I did it and they prided on it, yet I did not think so. I was of opinion that, no matter how hard we worked, no matter how new methods we found, no matter how new techniques we applied, success in operations of that sort depended only on the help of Allahu Ta'ala. I have always felt this in my heart in the numerous operations I have performed up to now. However improved our technology may be, the result of a brain operation, like all other things, is within the power of Allahu Ta'ala, and success is possible only with His help. During the brain operations I have performed for years, I have felt great excitement before the human brain. As I have dealt with the brain, and each time I have seen the brain, I have felt in my heart that it is impossible to solve the mystery of this tremendous work of art, that the power which created it is very great, and that it is necessary to believe in the existence of Allahu Ta'ala. Even the most perfect computers made by people today can be only toys when compared to the tiniest brains. Now I believe that the brain is a case in which the human soul is preserved. As we perform an operation around this case we perform a religious rite. A brain operation, in my personal credo, is a religious rite, identical with performing an act of worship. The operator's technical knowledge and skill are not the only requirements. He should, at the same time, believe in the existence of Allahu Ta'ala and beg Him for help and mercy for a successful operation. What happens to the soul kept in the case of the brain when a person dies? The soul is not in the body now, but definitely it is not dead. Where does it go then? It is not for me as a doctor to speculate on where the soul goes or where it stays. For physical areas of knowledge cannot answer this question. The only guide that will help us in this respect is a religious book. I believe that inasmuch as their brains and souls possess the faculty for reasoning, the humankind should leave aside the material values, attach themselves to the religion with all their hearts and believe in the teachings written in religious books. This comes to mean that even the world's famous and greatest surgeon sincerely expresses that he believes in the existence of Allahu Ta'ala and that without His help nothing can be done.